He fined him another $1,000 and threatened to put Trump in jail if he continues to violate the gag order. What can you tell us about that conversation?
So Judge Merchan spoke directly to Trump, and he actually said, I really don't want to put a former president in jail, but I will do it if I have to in order to get you to comply. Now, this is important because the judge understands what a tremendous undertaking this would be for the court officers and the Secret Service. And he said, this is the last thing that I really want to do, but if I'm pushed, then I will do my job. Back to you.
All right, thank you for the updates, Arlene. Next up, graduation canceled at Columbia University. The school announced it will no longer be holding its university-wide commencement ceremony. Only smaller school-based ceremonies will continue. This after weeks of unrest caused by pro-Palestinian protests. NTD's Fiona G has more.
According to Columbia University, the school consulted with graduating students before canceling the main university-wide ceremony. The decision comes after over 100 anti-Israel agitators were arrested last week after occupying and vandalizing the school's historic Hamilton Hall. Police will remain on Columbia's campus until May 17th. House Speaker Mike Johnson is now calling on Columbia University's Board of Trustees to fire President Minouche Shafik. At the University of South California, police dispersed a second pro-Palestinian encampment Sunday. No arrests were reported. The University of California, Los Angeles announced that the school will operate regularly starting today. This comes after classes were canceled last week due to anti-Israel protests that turned violent. At the University of Michigan and Northeastern University, commencement went ahead with increased security over the weekend. Other universities continue to face unrest. Students at Princeton University have begun a hunger strike. At New York University, over 5,000 alumni wrote to school administration, giving pro-Palestinian demonstrators their support. Harvard University warns that protesters will be put on involuntary leave. Protests have now spread to universities in England, France, and Italy. Protesters continue to demand that schools divest from Israel. Fiona G, NTD News.
Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is running for re-election this November. In a video today, the three-term independent calls the 2024 election the most consequential election in our lifetimes. The 82-year-old progressive senator, who often votes with Democrats, says he's running for a fourth term because he wants the country to reverse what he calls the unprecedented level of income and wealth inequality. Sanders also said in his view, Americans shouldn't provide more aid to Israel to continue the war in Gaza. He campaigned for the Democratic nomination for president in 2016 and in 2020. And some Bostonians are fed up with illegal immigration. Hundreds of protesters rallied in Boston over the weekend. The group is opposing current border policies and Massachusetts sanctuary city laws. Here's more.
USA! USA!
The rally on Saturday saw speakers and protesters demanding the Biden administration and state lawmakers close down the border to stop the massive influx of illegal immigrants. Maureen Maloney is an Angel Moms spokeswoman. That's a group who have had loved ones killed by an illegal immigrant.
And expecting the already overburdened Massachusetts taxpayers to pay for the welfare of foreign illegal migrants is an abuse of our sovereignty.
Talk radio host Jeff Cooner puts the entire illegal immigrant situation into a historical perspective.
Never in the history of any nation has a country taken in this many migrants in this short a period of time. This is the greatest migrant invasion in the history of the world.
Former Massachusetts State Representative Jeff Deal warns current border and right to shelter laws are quickly leading to a distressing outcome.
In some cases, I know there's asylum process. Go through that asylum process. But people are coming now, and there's no questions being asked. They're just being given all these benefits, and it's bankrupting our state.
If you knew that veterans were getting kicked out of their homes, not getting money, and we're bringing in millions of illegals, that's just it's not right.
Several Massachusetts cities are sanctuary cities and provide a right to shelter for any immigrants, legal or not. The state's emergency assistance program already has a deficit of about $224 million this year. Next year's program will cost an estimated $1 billion. Massachusetts adopted the first in the nation right to shelter law in 1983. Last summer, due to the influx of illegal immigrants, Governor Maura Healey asked residents to volunteer to host newcomers, including those who came illegally and are not eligible to stay at state-run emergency shelters.
And Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping is touring Europe this week, his first visit in 5 years. Amid trade issues and the Ukraine war, several issues of concern have strained relations. NTD's France correspondent David Vives talks to a French senator who suggests that one of Xi's objectives in touring European countries is to sway them against siding with the U.S.
Since the first day of Xi Jinping's tours in Paris, the French president seemed to be distancing himself from his Chinese counterpart. Rather than greeting him at the airport as protocol would dictate, Emmanuel Macron opted to meet him alongside the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, a move that appeared to prioritize the EU stance. Xi's visit coincides with escalating trade tensions as the European Union investigates several Chinese industries for unfair competition. Von der Leyen also addressed the trade imbalance between the EU and China as a matter of great concern. The EU Commission would also like China to step back from military support to Russia. In brief comment, Xi said he viewed his relation with Europe as a priority. However, the main takeaway of Xi's visit might not just be about trade relations. In a press conference at the Senate today, French Senator Olivier Cadic says the CCP's first secretary has geopolitical objectives.
The Chinese first secretary needs to keep the European Union as far away from the United States as possible in order to isolate the United States. It's easy to understand their whole strategy, which is to try and divide us. So he will try to convince President Macron to separate from the United States, be autonomous, to take him down that road.
After France, Xi Jinping will head to Serbia and Hungary. These countries have close ties with Russia while talking with European neighbors.
His second strategy is to separate and divide us within the European Union. And it's no coincidence that I chose to go to Budapest. And of course, if he chooses to go to Serbia, it's only because it's one of the major candidates for membership of the European Union.
Xi will visit a South France city on the 7th and will then head to Budapest on the 8th. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
And while Xi is visiting Europe, Russia's President Vladimir Putin is planning to visit China. Right before his visit, there was a shocking escalation of persecution in Russia. A Moscow court ordered the 2-month imprisonment of a Falun Gong practitioner on the basis of her beliefs. NTD's Daniel Monahan speaks with a Russian Falun Gong practitioner about the current situation.
The homes of 5 Falun Gong practitioners in total were raided on Friday. 4 people were detained. Police are persecuting them under the controversial law against, quote, carrying out the activities of an undesirable organization. Russian Falun Gong practitioner Anna Hlebnichkova discusses the law.
Basically, in Russia right now, anything can become undesirable. Also, some individuals, if you want to ban something, just call it undesirable. And in this moment, some organization or individual becomes illegal at this moment, and you can easily persecute.
The practitioner sentenced to 2 months in prison is named Natalia Minyankova. Hlebnichkova knows Natalia personally and considers her a friend.
When I was in Moscow, we were good friends, and it's a kind person. You cannot call such a person a criminal, and this is absurd. When the authorities are persecuting a young woman, and she didn't do anything wrong. So she doesn't drink alcohol. She's healthy. She's trying to live healthy life, and she's practicing. She's trying to be a good person, and just for doing this, she was imprisoned, and this is nonsense.
Falun Gong is a traditional Chinese meditation practice rooted in the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. It is practiced in countries around the world. In China, an estimated 70 to 100 million people practiced Falun Gong by 1999. The Chinese regime began a persecution campaign that year. involving forced labor, psychiatric abuse, and forced organ harvesting. Plebnichkova credits Falun Gong with lifting her up when she reached rock bottom.
I had many problems in my life, and Falun Dafa saved my life. I had addictions. As a teenager, I took drugs. I was drinking alcohol, and so it was quite extreme. And so then, when I broke my hand, and my brother brought me the book Falun Gong. This is how I started to practice, and since then I didn't take any drugs. It helped me to get rid of addictions, and since then I haven't drunk any alcohol.
Plebnichkova is now a proud married mom of 2 children who teaches German. She believes the Chinese Communist Party is playing a key role in the sinister developments in Russia.
China is very powerful, and so they put pressure on other countries to persecute us.
On Saturday, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan spoke at the Financial Times Weekend Festival in Washington, D.C. He said it came as no surprise that Russia would repress people on issues relating to freedom of speech, press, assembly, and religion.
Russia is increasingly relying on China for a lot of things, particularly as they have lost other avenues economically, technologically, and otherwise. So this is a relationship that we look at closely, carefully.
The European Court of Human Rights in 2023 ruled that the Russian ban on Falun Gong materials is illegal. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
When we come back, Truth Social owner Trump Media Group fires its auditor over accusations of massive fraud. NTD's Don Ma has the story in today's Business Brief. And the European Union clears Nippon Steel's $14.9 billion buyout of U.S. Steel. But the deal still faces resistance in the United States. That and more after the break.
Shen Yun Creations, the streaming platform from Shen Yun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
The 2024 NTD 9th International Chinese Vocal Competition is scheduled to take place at Merkin Hall, Kaufman Music Center in New York from September 18th to 21st. The competition specially invites vocalists from the world-famous Shen Yun Performing Arts to serve as judges. The prestigious Gold Award is $10,000. Chinese vocal artists aged 18 to 50 are welcome to register.
One in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, not enough energy to play. All around the world, hunger is affecting children's physical and mental health. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. Conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we are fed up. Fed up that hunger devours dreams. Fed up that hunger destroys joy. Fed up with the fact that hunger eats childhood. Help us feed the futures of children all over the world by visiting getfedupnow.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back. When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients, prevent children from dropping out of school, support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Having your childhood eaten away by hunger is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit getfedupnow.org.
According to a Public Citizen report, political action committees for the cryptocurrency industry have raised more than $100 million for upcoming congressional elections. The figure reported by the consumer rights advocacy group comes as the industry faces regulatory and congressional scrutiny. According to the Public Citizen report, about $54 million of the crypto industry's political war chest comes from direct corporate expenditures. The remainder comes from crypto executives and venture capitalists. The founders of Andreessen Horowitz have given $11 million. Gemini founders Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss have donated $5 million, and Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong has given $1 million. Today, the European Union cleared Nippon Steel's $14.9 billion buyout of U.S. Steel. However, the deal is facing resistance in the United States. President Biden has said Pennsylvania-based U.S. Steel should remain domestically owned. Presumptive Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump said he too would block the deal if elected. Japan's Nippon has tried to address concerns by offering to move its U.S. headquarters to Pittsburgh. The company has also promised to honor all agreements in place between U.S. Steel and the United Steelworkers Union. Despite mounting opposition, an overwhelming majority of U.S. Steel shareholders voted in favor of the deal in April. The company expects the deal to close in the second half of 2024. Trump Media Group fires its accounting firm. And have you ever wondered why brown eggs cost more than white eggs? NTD's Don Mott has the details in today's Business Brief.
And thank you very much, Steph. To start off, Truth Social owner Trump Media Technology Group announced Monday that it's firing BF Borgers. And of course, if you remember, this is coming after U.S. regulators accused the accounting firm of massive fraud. The decision to fire BF Borgers was required by regulators. Trump Media said in a filing that it dismissed BF Borgers as its independent registered public accounting firm. And that was the same day the Securities and Exchange Commission charged BF Borgers and its owner with widespread fraud and accused it of operating a sham audit mill. And Trump Media on Saturday said that it hired Semple Marshall Cooper to replace BF Borgers. And Steph, let me also talk to you about the launch that's marking the first crewed voyage to space using an Atlas rocket since the 1960s. And that is Boeing's new Starliner astronaut capsule. And it's poised for a launch tonight of its long-delayed inaugural crewed flight to the International Space Station. And the Starliner with 2 astronauts is due for a liftoff at 10:34 p.m. in Florida. Riding aboard the Starliner are veteran NASA astronauts Barry Butch Wilmore, 61, a retired U.S. Navy captain, and Sonny Williams, 58, a former Navy aviator and test pilot. Now, if all goes as planned, the capsule will arrive at the space station after a flight of about 26 hours and dock with the orbiting research outpost some 250 miles above Earth, and it's going to be on early Wednesday. And finally, Steph, do you ever wonder why brown eggs cost more than white eggs? Some might think that brown eggs are healthier or taste better, but farmers say that logic is a little scrambled. Pardon the pun here. The real reason it's actually pretty simple. It costs more to keep the chickens that produce the brown eggs well fed and happy, and farmers pass along those costs to consumers. So the average cost for a dozen of brown eggs is often $2 to $4 more than a dozen of white eggs. Perhaps brown eggs are not all that they're cracked up to be, if you will, Steph, and some people still prefer them. Back to you, Steph. That's all from me.
All right. Thank you, Don, for that humorous report. And thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephanie Cox. We'll have more stories from the U.S. and around the world. Join Tiffany Meyer for the NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern